Something I thought was interesting about the Laramie Project was the structure of the play. I liked getting to see the raw and real opinions of the townspeople as the events kind of unfolded, and I liked the documentary style of it. I think it's interesting to think about and compare what it might look like today if a similar event occurred in our society and someone made a play out of it. I also thought the dialogue made the play seem a lot more natural and real. The values being represented in the play, one of them was religion and how that relates to homosexuality. And we saw a lot of the religious leaders saying that God hates gay people and does not condone homosexuality when they were interviewed about the event of Matthew's death. Jedediah said his minister, he was questioning him when he said that homosexuality was wrong, so he was a character that was confused about this. Another value I wanted to highlight was mercy, when the dad let McKinney off the hook of the death penalty, and just different people's opinions that we got to hear about the death penalty throughout the play. Something that I wanted to do more research on was the hate crime laws that existed during this time. So I found that in 1968 there was a Civil Rights Act that was passed that made it illegal to injure or interfere with someone based on their color, race, or natural origin or religion. And it wasn't until 2009 that President Obama signed the Matthew Shepard Act of Congress that included gender, sexual orientation, disability, or gender identity in these lists of things that it was illegal to discriminate or commit a crime against. And I just thought it was interesting that it took 10 years to do this, and helps explain a little bit why the people of Laramie didn't totally see it as a crime at the time to hate against gay people. Laramie is depicted as a small town where everybody knows each other, with a lot of natural beauty, and I do think there's a difference between acceptance and tolerance. I think the people of Laramie were they were tolerating Matthew and the fact that he was homosexual rather than truly accepting him and embracing him as a part of their society, especially when we saw the Reverend kind of casually mention that Matthew brought it upon himself to live as a gay person as if it were his choice. The Tectonic Theater Project wants us to be aware of the people say that they're accepting others, but really people might just be tolerating their differences rather than acknowledging them as other human attributes. People want people to live to themselves, live and let live. I think what happened in Laramie could happen in Columbus because just of we don't always see how people are tolerating homosexuals, for example, and rather than truly accepting them, and I think that could be built up, and you never know what people are going to do. So 3 examples of how this is episodic structure is that it begins with interviews, more of a documentary style over a long period of time, whereas Intimate Apparel was one main story. There was more interesting subplots with different people and different stories and perspectives, and there were a lot more characters, and Intimate Apparel only had 7 characters. It's also nonfiction. So I think it was just easier to go back and forth between the townspeople and Matthew's conditions in the play. So 2 questions I had were, how do you think the town reacted to Matthew's dad relieving McKinney from the death penalty? And do you think that people who live in Laramie still or have changed their opinions on homosexuality since the gay rights movement has increased in the past few decades here in our society?